Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting edition of Beyond the Game. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville, Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Byride Auto. I almost did it again. You can tell we haven't been in practice. I almost said Tom Fleming first, but Tom, being Mr. Part-Time, hasn't come back yet. So Ryan Higginbotham, Jason Simpson joining you live from in studio. Josh joining us live via satellite from Indiana, Georgia. Josh, can you still feel the power, the vibe, the energy of Hoosier Nation just pulsing through the city?
I mean, I feel like I can feel it in my voice for all the yelling and screaming and everything that happened last night. You know, Jason, I know we're obviously going to get into the game, but by mid-third quarter, at that point, we were just golf clapping and laughing more than we were going crazy like we were on the opening pick six from D'Angelo Pons. But
it was almost like pity applause because it was like a wild animal playing with its food is really what it was.
Yeah, it was. You know, for all the things that the firsts that have happened for Indiana football over the last 2 years, I never thought 56-22 in a national semifinal game was possible. But it was just, they were, you know, Sig says it, you want to be fast, physical, and relentless. And they're, you know, use any, like you said, use any animal analogy that you want to use. They're like an anaconda squeezing the life out of their prey, and it's something to see in person, that's for sure.
And you know what's our overall percentage on Beyond the Game now? We're up over 98%. I know that. Where we're right and we speak things into existence. And Josh, probably most people would think that either one of us was lying, but since we were both present and heard it, why don't you share with people what I said to you right after the opening kickoff and Oregon decides to run it back and IU stops them at like the 12. So it was a good thing for us that Oregon decided to kick off or to return the kickoff. And what did I say to you as Oregon's offense and IU's defense is running out onto the field?
You said this is probably going to turn out something like the Illinois game, and there's going to be a pick six.
and literally 9 seconds into the game, D'Angelo Pons jumps a little RPO route, takes it 12 yards to the house, and you know I think the greatest singular sporting moment that I've ever been a part of was being fortunate enough to be at IU when Christian Watford hit the shot against Kentucky. But that was 17,000 IU fans. And last night when D'Angelo Pons intercepted that because, and I know we'll get into this too and what the whole atmosphere was like, the announced attendance last night was 75,306 or something like that. And there is no way anybody can convince me that there were more than 5,000 Oregon fans there. There were 70,000 Indiana fans there. And I'm not convinced. You know how they talk about sometimes, like at Death Valley and Baton Rouge, that it will register on the Richter scale because of the volume of the crowd. You can't convince me that did not cause some sort of tremor in the earth with the explosion that happened when Pons intercepts that and takes it to the house.
It's an experience in a sports moment that can't be replicated. It's the greatest play in the history of Indiana sports. Basically that, and I'm including the Watt shot over that. This was a coronation. This was a celebration of Indiana football, and you know, whatever happens in the national championship game, not this coming Monday, but next Monday down in Miami, that moment will live in Indiana sports history forever. and it's the biggest play in Indiana sports history, period. Take it over the Keith Smart shot, over the Watt shot.
Now, see, I'm going to push back on that. I think there's some recency bias to that, simply because when it came to Keith Smart, that won them a national championship. And what this did is that was a great first step towards winning a semifinal game, but it was the very first play of the game, and as amazing as it was, and I will give you that, it might be number 2 all time, but I don't know how you can put it above a play that wins a national championship. Like, it was the singular play that won the title.
You're not going to get – I mean, I can see it going either way, right? I mean, I get your point. There is recency bias for sure. But you can't convince me that didn't win them the game. I know they tied it. Oregon tied it at 7-7, but it was after that play there was never any worry that Oregon was going to challenge Indiana, and you could feel it in the stadium. I would say that there weren't even 2,000 Oregon fans there. I mean, it was incredible.
I think if you took their band out of the stands, you could have fit all of the Oregon fans in maybe one of the public restrooms in the stadium, is how few there were there.
And I guess if we're talking about predictions here, Jason, what did I say? How many points did I say Indiana would have?
Well, it's funny. So I looked like Nostradamus after speaking into existence the fact that we were going to have a pick six to start the game. And once we both finally calmed down, and the TV timeout was it's 2:50, right? Isn't that what they always put on that little clock that he trots out there? And it probably took 2:45 of the 2:50 to come down, and you said 56-7, it's coming, 56-7, and you got half of that score right too. You got the Hoosiers 56 points, and one of the touchdown, or the last touchdown that Oregon scored. And look, you know as well as I do, Sig's going back and watching that, and he is madder than a hornet. Even though it was against the second and third string, he's going to be mad about it. But a team that got to the college football semifinal still had a guy who at one point was a Heisman Trophy candidate, and a guy who's being talked about for whatever reason as being one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the draft. You still have him and their entire first-string offense on the field when they score that meaningless touchdown. So that put Oregon's points a little bit further away, but you hit it right on the head and called IU's 56 points 9 seconds into the game. You still with us? Uh-oh. Did we lose Josh?
He's still...
Hey, I was on mute. On mute, sorry.
No, you're good.
But I said, we call a lot of things on this show, but the pick six, and then a pick six right away, and then the 56 points 11 seconds into the game, that's certainly 2 of the things that I wasn't expecting to come true. Glad they did. But, another thing that we've kind of talked about on this show, and it's been for multiple weeks, and it hasn't been since Joel Klatt has started to say it, or any other of the talking heads have started to say it. Weeks ago, we said on this show, and the question was brought up, if Indiana wins the national championship, runs the table and wins the national championship, A, is Indiana the best college football team of all time? And 2, is Curt Cignetti the best college coach of all time? And I know people are going to laugh about that statement. Oh, Nick Saban has 7 national championships, and Urban Meyer won at Florida, and he won at Ohio State. My thing to that is Curt Cignetti.
Time out. Hold on. Press rewind on your sentence and think about what you just said about Urban Meyer. He won where again?
Exactly. Florida.
Oh.
And Ohio State.
Oh, okay.
And where did Nick Saban win? At Alabama.
And
did Nick Saban win?
LSU.
And and LSU. And when did Nick Saban win? When the car dealerships were paying $50,000 to the players
and weren't
nobody
allowed
else
to, and
was
the
getting
SEC
paid.
was the conference that was doing it.
Yeah. So
And where's Kurt
look,
Cignetti winning again?
Indiana. Oh, and James Madison.
And
So
IU, Pennsylvania.
and Elon. I don't think anybody's going to confuse Elon for Florida. So look, when you hear this over the next 2 weeks after Indiana wins a national championship against Miami, and Indiana football gets a national championship before Purdue basketball ever gets a national championship, just remember that Beyond the Game said that Kurt Cignetti is at least in the conversation of greatest coach of all time. And this Indiana team will go down as the greatest college football team of all time.
You know, I want to go back to something you said, because I'm not disagreeing, but just as you were saying it, I started to think about that next drive. Obviously, the Pons pick six was, I mean, that took the lead for me over the Watt shot for the most, and like I always said that Kentucky game was the best sporting event I had ever been to, but it was because of where IU basketball had been and all those things, and it's still top three, but last night took the top spot because of the passion and the pride, not just in volume but in numbers that IU showed in Atlanta. And you know, for you and I as alums, Josh, that it was a sight to behold to see that. But then to do what they did, that was a national semifinal. That was a game that wasn't not, and we know the importance of that win over Kentucky many moons ago, but it was a regular season game. And yeah, it was kind of to stamp, hey, we're on our way back and we think that we've arrived in those things. But last night was playing for a berth in the national championship game. And so, you know, from a sporting event, that was the singular greatest sporting event that I've ever attended. But right after the Pons pick six, you know, Oregon keeps the ball for about 8 minutes, and they just kind of methodically drive down the field, and you're like, man, are we going to lose all of this momentum we gained because it took us 9 seconds, and here they're able to eat 8 minutes off the clock. And I almost think it wasn't that pick six that really deflated Oregon. I think it was they came out and they got a couple stops. You know, it was second and long, gets to third down, and Surratt makes an unbelievable catch on a back shoulder throw. Like, he had no business making that catch, but he makes that catch. Demoralizing play. They get him to third and long again. Mendoza scrambles out, sweeps off to the right, completes another pass again to Surratt. Another first down. Well, then you bring in Kalon Black and Roman Henby, and it's just punch you in the mouth, punch you in the mouth, punch you in the mouth. And then, I don't even remember who scored the first offensive touchdown.
Omar Cooper. I think it
was that the pass to Cooper?
Yeah, Omar Cooper.
Placed.
Yep.
Yes.
And so here you think, all right, hey, we've stemmed the tide. We slowed him down, and then what's Mendoza do? Just surgically picks you apart. Just marches the team down the field like, oh, this is what I do, and it's 14-7, and Oregon's looking up like, holy cow, what do we have to do? And then that very next possession, wasn't that the fumble? Didn't they fumble on the very next possession? And that's when we scored, and it's 21-7, and like Dan Lanning is trying to figure out, you know, what's the quickest he can get back to Oregon at this point.
Yeah, you know, if you that first touchdown drive from Indiana, it went 1 yard run, 5 yard pass, 23-yard pass to Surratt, which again was just an incredible play. It was a perfectly thrown ball and an unbelievable catch. But then 4-yard run, and then they go with a 5-yard penalty. There was a false start penalty on Khalil Benson, but 7-yard run, 5-yard pass, 6-yard run, 12-yard run, 11-yard run. 8-yard touchdown pass. Like, that's what IU's done all season long. When they want to run the ball, they can run the ball. And we looked up, there for a while they were averaging 3.5 yards a carry, and I think they probably ended around 3.5 yards a carry for that game. Although the refs wiped out a phantom 80-yard touchdown run to try to keep, or the score wouldn't even have been 56-22. It wouldn't have been that close. But when IU wants to run the ball, they can run the ball. IU is unbelievable at tackling. They're unbelievable at playing on schedule. And what that means is 1st and 10 becomes 2nd and 6, and 2nd and 6 becomes 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2. And then you can run it, you can pass it at 3rd and 2. You're not always in passing situations. And defensively, they always get you in those we have to throw situations. And they're always ahead of the sticks defensively, 2nd and 12, 3rd and 9. And that's when the pass rush comes out. That's when the exotic looks from Bryant Haynes comes out. And that's when they suffocate you. And you saw Dante Moore in real time, Jason, say, no thanks, I'm good. And all he would do from about mid-second quarter on was check it down. They never stretched the field, and I think they had a
one play, because remember it was coming towards us, so that would have been in the 4th quarter. He had that pass would have been down the Indiana sideline coming towards us. Was the one time, like you said, after probably the beginning of the 2nd quarter, that he threw it like his average pass had to be less than 5 air yards until that one pass.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get – so he was 24 of 39 for 285 yards, a long of 43. But here's where stats are deceiving. Like, he completed 61% of his passes, which isn't great in college football. He's been up around 72% for the season. But QBR, which 50 of QBR is playing an average game, they have Dante Moore at 68.4. That was not an above-average game.
No.
Again, it was check down city is all he could do, because you could tell that he had no business and wanted nothing to do with Indiana. He got sacked 4 or 5 times. He fumbled it a couple times. He was fumbling snaps. He had no interest of stretching the field. And man, it's just something. If you haven't seen Indiana live, it's a sight to behold, to watch them play and just suffocate their opponent.
And we kept pointing it out throughout the game, and they ended up having, how long was that run they had there at the beginning of the 4th quarter? It was probably 75 yards, wasn't it?
Indiana, yeah.
No. Oregon.
Oregon?
They had the one sweep out to the right. They pitched it out, and he got loose. It was probably 70, 75 yards.
Yep.
Up until that, and of course that's going to inflate your stats and make it look like you were better than you were. Up until that point, through 3 quarters of play, Oregon was averaging 0.5, not 5, 0.5, 1/2 of 1 yard per carry. A half of a yard per carry. And this is a team playing in the college football semifinals. That is belt to backside.
Yeah, so they threw a pick. They had 2 turnovers or 2 fumbles. There was a blocked punt in there. Again, they had 93 rushing yards, but they had 75 on one play. And you looked up and they were showing, Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a really nice football stadium.
Holy cow, was that place awesome.
The sound quality could have been better. But you walk in there and it's a massive stadium. And they have this big ring around the top of it that's a video board. And we just kept saying, look up at that video board. Stats do lie. A lot of times people say, hey, look, stats don't lie. They were lying last night, because literally everything that Oregon was doing was matched up with Indiana. But then you'd look to your right a little bit on the scoreboard, and it was 42-7.
Yeah.
It was
Well, what kept
I've
the
never
total
seen
yardage down for IU was the fact that they were able to create so many turnovers in Oregon territory. You know, you get the pick six. Well, there's 7 points. You obviously have no offensive yards from that. They recovered his first fumble at like the 22-ish, I want to say. Recover the second fumble, I think about the 30, give or take, and then they block the punt and recover that at like the 6. So you don't have a lot of positive yards in front of you to complete those drives, but at the end of it, you still have that beautiful 7 points that you and I both know, and everybody knows that as an IU fan, we're not settling for 3. Sig is going for 7.
Yeah, and just some of the crazy stats that have come out since last night. Like this one to me, and this is just one among about 10 that we have, but Indiana's now faced 4 top 10 teams this season. They won all of those games, and they won by a combined 100 points in those 4 games against top 10 teams. The largest
But who have they played, Josh?
Yeah. Well, they got the beloved Alabama Crimson Tide. They got everybody's preseason national champion, Ohio State, and last year's national champion. Oregon was the darling, and they beat them not once, but twice, and one time in Oregon, and one time in front of 75,000, 72,000 Indiana fans when you can only seat 55,000 in Memorial Stadium. So 15,000 more people that can get into Memorial Stadium drove or flew down to Atlanta to watch probably the biggest stomping in college football history.
And another stat, and I texted it to you guys this morning. So in 2 college football playoff games, Fernando Mendoza has 8 touchdown passes, which in 2 games is phenomenal for anybody. He has 8 touchdown passes total, 5 incomplete passes. 5 in 2 games against two teams that were supposed to be among the best in the country. And he has 5 incomplete passes. And he is so surgical at what he does. It feels like he throws it more than he actually does in games. But I just heard this morning on SportsCenter, so far in their 2 games, IU has rushed the ball 90 times and only thrown it 36. So think about that. He's got 36 passes, and he's got touchdowns on 8 of those 36 passes. I think that's kind of good.
Yeah, I think that's good. I sent this one last night to you guys at about 2 o'clock in the morning. So I know you were up driving home, Jason, but sorry, Ryan, but couldn't fall asleep. Division I or FBS teams to score. There are 3 teams to do this in the history of college football, to score 55 points and win by 30 points in 7 different games in a season. Yale, Princeton, of 1885 and 1886 and 2025 Indiana. So 1886 Yale, 1885 Princeton, and 2025 Indiana. I don't know if that's a real stat. If it is, it's one of the most incredible stats I've ever seen. So I'm going to roll with it until I get proven otherwise.
Yeah, in today's modern era of football, domination like this isn't supposed to happen. Like, I'm not saying college football is like the NFL. The NFL wants every single team to go 9-8 or 8-9. 1 game above, 1 game below 500, where every game at the end of the season matters going into the playoffs. They want a level playing field. They don't want – I shouldn't say that they don't want dynasties, because they do like having, like a Patrick Mahomes and Chiefs dynasty, because Mahomes is so likable, and Travis Kelce, everybody loves Travis Kelce and all those things. But they want basically every team to be right there at 500 and everybody fighting for their lives down to the end of the season. But domination like that in any sport is not supposed to happen. And you and I were kind of talking about it last night. In modern time, first I said it reminds me of UNLV when they won the national title in 1991. Yeah, it would have been 91. The running Rebels, Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon, all those dudes just ran roughshod over college basketball. They did lose a game that year, but they won by, average margins of 20-plus points. And the only team, fun fact, the only team that was close and probably should have beaten them in the tournament was Ball State. Huh. Ball State got beat by them. I want to say it ended up 5 in the Sweet 16. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, do yourself a favor and go to YouTube today and just search Chandler Thompson UNLV dunk. You can thank me later. It is quite literally one of the top 2 or 3 dunks maybe in the history of college basketball, especially when you see the dudes who were on the floor for UNLV at the time and what they went on to do in the NBA and stuff. The way they got dunked over was a sight to behold. But then we said more present day. I think I can't think of a football comparison because there isn't one. Like you said, it was the 1880s the last time a team was this dominant, this thoroughly dominant like IU has been. But I think you have to go back to a couple years ago when UConn just ran through the tournament, and I think their closest game was like 14 or 15 points, but won every single game on the way to their national championship by double figures, which in March Madness, that's unheard of. But they were never truly challenged, and we still have one game to go, but IU has not been challenged yet. And Alabama and Oregon, Alabama is the powerhouse of college football, although people forget that Nick Saban isn't there anymore. But, their name is synonymous with the powerhouse of college football. And then I always compare Oregon in football, even though you shouldn't, especially now because they're in the Big Ten. But back when they were in the Pac-12 and, we didn't hear much about them, I always compared Oregon to Gonzaga on the basketball side of things. Everybody's fun little underdog, and they fell in love with the Duck mascot, and they fell in love with the 8,000 different jerseys that Phil Knight would roll out for them each season. So they're kind of the darlings of football. But you have to lose that thinking on them now. I mean, they are obviously a legitimate top 5 program year in and year out in college football. But to that point, it hasn't been close yet. Sheer and utter dominance. And go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the largest, to your point, the largest point differential in a single season in college football, in the college football playoff era, or the CFP era, I guess is how they're labeling it.
And remind me again, Josh, what conference does IU play in?
The Big Ten. The best conference in college football.
And remind me, sorry, Sycamore fans, we're not going to include Indiana State in this one. Remind me of the 2 other preseason opponents that IU had.
Old Dominion and Kennesaw State.
And how many games did Old Dominion win this year?
10 games this year.
And how many games did Kennesaw State win this year?
I believe they won 9 or 10 games this year. Okay,
so 2 teams that were, one definitely was double-figure wins. The other one may have been. We know for sure they won. I do know for sure they won 9. I think both of them won their bowl games. Mm-hmm. And then we go on the road and we beat Iowa. Remind me how many games they won this year in the Big Ten?
They won 9 games, and I think they beat an SEC team in the. Oh yeah, I know they beat an SEC team in the bowl game because the SEC had one win in bowl season that wasn't against another SEC team.
And we didn't play Michigan this year, right?
Mm-mm.
No,
we did not.
But
luckily for Michigan,
who did Michigan play in the bowl game?
Texas.
And how'd that go?
Well, actually, Texas won that one.
So that was the one.
That was the only one.
That was the one win.
That was the
Um,
one win. And guess what? Texas wasn't even an SEC team until 2 years ago.
true.
So
Well,
it's not even
Oregon
a
wasn't a
traditional
Big
SEC.
Ten team either. Was
No,
Iowa
no.
the team that beat Vanderbilt?
Yes.
And then
Yes.
there's a Big Ten team that beat Tennessee also, right? Was it
Illinois beat Tennessee.
Illinois beat Tennessee. So, I mean,
Houston beat LSU. Virginia beat Missouri. You know how bad the ACC is, and they shouldn't even have gotten any teams in and all this. Well, Miami's in the national championship game, and Virginia beat Missouri, who we called Paper Tigers on this show after like 2 weeks. So we knew that for a fact. The other team that the SEC shills wanted in the college football playoff, Vanderbilt, let Iowa score 34 points.
it normally takes Iowa 6 games to get 35 points.
The second best team in the SEC lost to Indiana by 35 points and couldn't even score a touchdown. You know who else couldn't score a touchdown against Indiana? Purdue. You know how many points Purdue scored against Indiana? 3. You know how many points Alabama scored against Indiana? 3. So don't worry, Purdue fans. We scored 56 on Oregon like we did on you, and we only gave up 3 points to you, and we only gave up 3 to Alabama. So you're right there with Oregon and Alabama.
It makes I experienced it. I don't know if you and I could do justice to it, like what that experience was like over the last 48 hours or so. You know, obviously a quick trip. We left and went down Thursday morning, so we got to spend late afternoon, evening at in Atlanta. And then, you know, obviously all day yesterday leading up to the game. I hadn't been to Atlanta in probably 30 years minimum. And Atlanta is obviously one of the biggest cities in the United States. But what's so weird, what was so strange about it is, as big of a city as it is, it's not the hustle and bustle of your Chicagos and your New Yorks. And I mean, there's traffic and there's people out and about and stuff. But what was so cool about it, everywhere you walked, everywhere, there was IU fans 2 and 3 wide on every sidewalk. You go into a restaurant, IU fans have taken over the place. You guys need to do yourself a favor today to our people listening and jump on Twitter and look for probably a 10-second video that somebody shot of the bar in the Oregon team hotel. Mm-hmm. There was not one green shirt in there. It was taken over by IU fans. And I mean, let's just add it to the list. That list keeps on. Our list is about to get as long as Santa's Christmas list, I think, and his naughty and nice list. But add it to the list. I mean, I believe this was before. I can't remember if they had fired Tom Allen, but I know it was before Cignetti was hired. And we say it all the time on here. We said IU is a sleeping giant just waiting to be awoken with the right guy. At that point, Penn State had the largest living alumni base in the country, but IU was number 2. This year, IU has taken over that mantle. There are more living alumni from IU than any other public institution in the United States. And I'm not convinced that half of those living alumni weren't in Atlanta over the past couple of days, soaking that in, just being a part of it. And what was so cool about it, and, you know, people from bigger cities and stuff love to make fun of the Midwest, you know, because we're too nice, we're whatever it is. But I also think that niceness, but the passion that we have in a positive way, you know, we're not like angry Philadelphia fans or something like that. You started to see servers in restaurants. You started to, like that DJ that was in the hotel bar that we were in yesterday, the DJ starts to, it was infectious. You started to infect these people with your enthusiasm, that had nothing to do with it. There were two ushers. We were right on the aisle with our seats yesterday, and the two ushers couldn't help themselves. They started cheering for IU, and they're just there because they're getting a paycheck for it, and they're infected by just the excitement and the energy, and it is an experience that, and I said it on my post-game interview, and I think I told you guys, I've been in coaching for 29 years, and Thursday and Friday were the first time ever, for any reason, sickness, death in the family, whatever, I had never missed a practice in 29 years. And, so it was obviously very difficult because I don't miss practices. I don't miss games. But to say it was worth it would be the understatement of a century. Just to be there and to feel it and to be around it. And there's one thing to say you're a fan. Like, Josh, you are a Chicago Bears fan. But we are IU. It's our school. Not only we grew up fans, but then it became us too. That's our school. It means something. And so to be able to go and soak that in and to have that experience that is definitely something that I will never forget. I would never trade that moment, those experiences. It was absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, and to further your point, just got a text message from Stu Meyer, and he shared a tweet from a guy named Will Compton. I think he's in the national media. And
he's bussing with the boys.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, there you go. So in his tweet was, the hotel we are at is ground zero for Indiana Hoosier fans, and they might be the nicest fan base I've ever come across. You can feel the high they're on since Cignetti came to town. One fan has explained this year's experience as, it feels like we're in a dream beyond a dream. And that really couldn't be more true, And I got to give Atlanta credit, like you said, everywhere we went, everybody, all the servers and everything went above and beyond. I mean, we had a great experience at the restaurant we went to. We met up with Craig Story and his wife and her family at a hotel called the Glen Hotel, which seems like probably the bougiest of bougie hotels in Atlanta.
It was highfalutin.
It was, and then there was a DJ, and he was playing the IU fight song, and John Mellencamp, and Clayton Anderson's Indiana, and just people were dancing and laughing and having a good time. Before the game, we left, and this was probably around 4 o'clock. We had heard through rumors that there were 3 bars that were already out of beer, which is insane. And it was just, there were no fights. There were no arguments. When you would come across an Oregon fan, nobody was yelling at Oregon fans. People were stopping, and we stopped and talked to an Oregon fan, and they talked about how great Indiana fans were. And that Midwest Nice, we joke about it. And, we joke about it in Wisconsin, just like we do in Indiana, but it's a real thing. And, Indiana and Miami both get an allotment next Monday night for the national championship game.
I think it's 20,000 apiece. I think I saw that.
20,000 apiece.
I think
so.
So
there's 25,000 other tickets up for grabs, and you can't convince me that there will be more than 5,000 Miami fans that buy tickets. It's going to be another, not quite like Atlanta, but it's going to be another de facto home game for Indiana, even though it's played at Miami Stadium.
And, I mean, you can't undersell how important that is, too, because, to come out in a stadium like that, and I think a lot of times those playoff games can be stale just because, you're in an NFL stadium and things like that. And, even if the crowd's 50-50, you're going to drown each other out. But, last night was the closest thing I've been a part of from a football perspective to the old Hoosier Dome since the Hoosier Dome was there. And Peyton Manning was, playing. And I mean, that place would get deafening because the sound just echoed everywhere. And the sound kind of escaped last night because it is such a massive building. But IU fans were so loud and so plentiful, it was still it's the loudest football environment outside of the Hoosier Dome I've ever been in.
Yeah, and you could hear, it was funny, and we would just laugh at it every single time. At the end of Indiana's fight song, when everybody says IU, you could just kind of hear it go down the stadium and just ring out loud. I mean, Oregon had to do a silent count all night when they were on offense, which that doesn't happen at neutral site fields. And that definitely played a factor in it. And you've heard Indiana players say it all playoffs. Like, we have the best fan base in the country, and it was a sleeping giant, like you said 2 years ago, Jason, on this show. Again, we're right again. It was the biggest sleeping giant in college football, and that's proven with, again, 70,000 Indiana fans 8 hours away from Bloomington, when Memorial Stadium only seats 55,000. We ran into multiple people that we knew from Greensburg down there. And there were multiple people from Greensburg that were down there that we didn't run into, that we knew were down there. And, it was one of those experiences where you're walking through the stadium and you're legitimately looking around. You're not people watching. You're trying to find somebody that you know. And there were people that we knew just walking down 10 sections from the entrance to where we
I
sat.
saw Cody Zeller last night on our way out, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah.
By the way, getting out of that stadium was a nightmare.
Oh, that was not good.
But that's beside the point. We won't talk bad about Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But it was something, like you said, an experience that you wouldn't trade for anything. And, I have to apologize to Carrie because she didn't get to see the pick six, because as soon as it happened, I was already on high alert because you had called it, Jason, and I know that we're right on 99.2% of the things that we say. I think I punched her in the head, and she didn't see D'Angelo Pons go into the end zone. It was the first out-of-body experience that I've ever had. I think I said 100 times, this has to be what heaven is like, because that it was exactly what I would envision heaven being like. My heaven is different than everybody else's, but that's what my heaven would be. So Carrie's got a nice little, I hope she doesn't report me to the Wausau Police Department afterwards, because I would have no defense for domestic violence, and I wouldn't apologize for it either. So, yeah, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to make it to Miami for the national championship game. First off, the ticket prices are insane. But going to be in Mexico for that. But it's okay. I don't think anything that I experienced last night I don't even think the national championship can top that, regardless of what the outcome is.
I don't know that. I think I'd like to find out, but I'm in the same boat you are. You and I have talked about our experience being there for almost 50 minutes now. I'm curious, from Ryan's point of view, what was it like from your perspective as this game's going on and you're watching it from afar? I don't know, like, if you were watching it by yourself, if you were with a group of people, like, just what was it like watching it from the comfort of your own couch?
Well, unfortunately for me, I did have to work last night, but I have ESPN, and I have a set of AirPods. I stuck it right in my pocket, and I listened to D'Angelo Pons have a pick six as I'm driving a car, and I said a couple words to myself. I said, "Oh, this game's over," and I knew right then. It reminded me just of the Illinois game when I was watching that back in September. You just know. It's going to be that type of game. After I think it was probably the end of the first quarter, I ended up turning the game off because I knew it wasn't going to be close. But it's just one of those things, it's going to happen. And dare I say, I don't want to put any, bad juju out there. The national championship game is going to be the exact same way.
I hope you're right. I haven't seen. Have either of you seen what the opening line is?
7.5.
7.5 on their home field. So that means IU's actually basically favored by 10.5. Because don't they give home field 3 points?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they usually give. Yeah.
Good night.
That's
I don't
what they
hate that.
Say. No, and I don't know, Jason. We kind of talked about this on Thursday night over, I'd say 1 or 2 beers. But
it was no more than 2.
It was yeah. I don't know how to really describe this, because where would you put this run and this team and now the football program when it comes to this type of championship run or an Indiana basketball championship run? And kind of in talking about that, when we were talking about that, the argument that I brought up was, since 1987, or since I can remember, we've been waiting for that and really living and dying with Indiana basketball for the longest time. Now some apathy has set in and things like that. I mean, hell, there's a game against top 10 Nebraska here in a couple hours that, I'm not going to be able to watch. I don't know how many people are going to tune in, but we lived and died with Indiana basketball for so long. And I remember the days of watching WTTV4 and Indiana football with LeBron Williams and Antoine Randall and those guys, and hoping and praying to get the 6 wins. But it didn't ruin my day like an Indiana basketball loss did. But Indiana football has come out of nowhere so fast, and it's been a rocket ship so quickly that I don't think we had the opportunity to see, a 7-win team build to a 9-win team, build to what they are now. It just happened so quickly, and I don't think we know how to process it. So where are you at when it comes to Indiana basketball, Indiana football, this run compared to an Indiana basketball run quite like this?
Well, I was alive for the last IU basketball national championship, and that was quite honestly the first. It wasn't the first time I watched IU, but that was the first team I fell in love with. It's Steve Alford's senior year and all of those things. I'm 10 years old at the time. So just loved all of the players and things like that. I knew names, numbers, where they were from, stats, all those things. I got immersed in that. But even though they won it, that was not, and like they were expected to be good, but that was not a team going into the season that you expected, like, oh, hey, this is definitely a Final Four team national championship team. But they kind of got their way. They got to that place by the end of the season. Like Wisconsin and Northwestern used to, like, the only concern was getting out unharmed, because you knew they were so bad year in and year out. You knew you were going to win. You didn't have to worry about it. Well, they go on the road to Wisconsin and they win in triple overtime. And they play Northwestern, because this is back when you played them twice. They beat them handily at home, but then takes triple overtime at Wisconsin. They go to Northwestern and it takes overtime to beat them there. And so there's just some of these pitfalls along the way. But I think another huge difference, though, just between basketball in general and in football. In basketball, all you have to say, like, who cares if you lose 6, 7, 8 games? The only thing you have to do is be playing well at the end of the year and just get into the tournament. Now, college football has gotten to the point where one loss is not fatal. And depending who your 2 losses are against, 2 losses aren't fatal. But if you want to be safe, you better not lose more than 1 game. Oh, I'm sorry, that's very difficult. If you're in the Big Ten, if you're in the SEC, we're not going to say the ACC, but if you're in one of those 2 conferences, you can't go into every single season and bank on, well, here's the only game that we might lose. Like, you could lose any given Saturday. And, you know, kind of to your point of we weren't that team that was like, hey, we got the 7 this year, we got everybody back. Maybe we can get to 8 next year and we get to 9. I almost think that has made it now kind of like you said that the guy described it. It's like a dream inside of a dream. It's been so instantaneous. We haven't had time to process it and digest it. And I think that's made it better because we've just jumped on and gone along for the ride. You haven't had time to nitpick and get mad about little things and all of that. And I think you also have to attribute some of that back to going all, depending the age of the fan, you have to attribute that back to Bob Knight from the standpoint of, we all know what success looks like. Now, I'm not trying to claim that everything, the way that Bob Knight did everything was the right way to do things, because it obviously wasn't. And Coach Cignetti has shown how many traits that are carbon copies of Bob Knight, but it's been the best ones. It's not, and I'm not saying he's not fiery, but you're never concerned that he's going to just berate and undress a kid on the sideline and get in his face and maybe headbutt him and things like that. So I think that because it's been such an instantaneous meteoric rise, and it's been led by a guy who we feel like we have a connection to already because we've had him. We had him in Bob Knight and had all that success for years. And so I just think that I almost think it makes it better that it has happened so quickly because we haven't had time to adjust. We haven't had time to prepare. We haven't had time to question or to guess. It's just like, baby, get on board and hold on tight because this thing, this is a rocket shooting off into space.
Yeah, and, you know, I'm about ready. I know we're going to take our break here in a minute. I'm about ready to jump in an Uber to get to the airport, but then I'll stay on while I'm in the Uber. But, you know, I think what this is really doing is creating those fans, the younger fans, like it created you in 1987 when Indiana won a national championship. You know, we saw numerous kids at that game. You know, I have friends that have kids that are now Indiana football fans because of this run that they've been on. And that's really maybe the most important thing that's come out of this run for Indiana in football is yes, you have the alumni that have always liked Indiana football, but not really cared about Indiana football. And now you're having those 8, 9, 10, 15-year-old kids that basically are going to be what 1987 did for you, Jason, and it's incredible to see.
And, you know, I can't remember if I sent it to you guys or not. I must not have. But the statistic about, you know, never questioned the importance of football being successful, and it went back to 2015 through present day, just the number of applicants that IU has gotten. And from the year before Cignetti through last year, the number of applications to IU rose by like 15,000. And that's not even including this year. And it has brought so much attention to the school that and this is what makes no sense to me, Josh, because I heard this. I'm like, well, how in the world did Josh and I get in? But the median GPA to get into IU now, and I'm not saying IU is some simple school to get into. I'm not saying that. But the median GPA to get into IU now, because there is such an influx of interest, is 3.94.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got that.
3.94. Like, that is unbelievable because granted, it's been a day or two ago, but I remember when I was applying to schools, and I think I had like a 3.3 or 3.4 at the time. You know, not great, not bad. You know, A's and B's. I had less than zero worry about getting in. Like, I applied knowing I'm going to get in, you know. And now 3.94 is the median, which just absolutely boggles my mind. But as crazy as it is, that's the academic side that is boosted by football being successful.
Yeah, and I know we got to take our break. I'm about ready to jump into this Uber, so I will stay on the line, but I'll be on mute here for a little bit.
All right, Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Buy Right Auto. We'll be right back.
Here's Dante Moore ready to take the snap. Drops back, throws the football. Yes, there we go! Intercepted! D'Angelo Ponce! Touchdown!
I don't know if you could hear that roar from the crowd as the legend Don Fisher called the D'Angelo Ponce pick six to start the game last night, or should I say, to start the beatdown last night. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acra Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton's Heavy Law Office, and Byrite Auto. Ryan Higginbotham and Jason Simpson live in studio. Josh joining us live via satellite from an Uber in Indiana, Georgia. We just spent an hour talking about the Hoosiers, and it probably still wasn't enough time spent on them. But, Josh, I know you said you got about, 20 minutes, give or take. I'm going to be nice, and I'm going to give you the floor because is it tomorrow that the Bears play?
Tonight.
Oh, they play tonight. So, your beloved Bears are in the playoffs for the first time since?
Well, the 2020 season, I guess they were in the playoffs, but
asterisk.
That was the Matt LaFleur rule, the 7th seed, because Packers head coach Matt LaFleur would not have ever made the playoffs if not for the 7th seed. So, really, 2018 was the last time that they had a really legitimate shot and a case to be made that they were in the playoffs.
So why don't you give us a little breakdown, a little rundown of what we can expect tonight as the Packers travel to Soldier Field to take on, or should I say the Great Flying Saucer, to take on the Bears?
I don't really know how this game's going to play out. I think from the high that I'm on from last night, maybe all things will turn up good in my world and give me a good 24 hours of sports. But it's the third game against the Packers. If you, again, another stats do sometimes lie. If you look at both that the Bears and Packers played this year, really the Packers not dominated, but they controlled both of those games. And the Bears snuck one out in Chicago by recovering an onside kick and then driving down the field, and then the 48-yard touchdown pass to DJ Moore in overtime. And they had a chance to win the game in Lambeau Field. Caleb Williams threw an interception in the end zone as time expired. So, I want to say I know what's going to happen, or I know how it's going to play out, but I really don't. And, one thing that I do know is when the Bears score in the first quarter, they haven't lost a game this season. So getting off to a fast start, I don't think they're going to get off to the D'Angelo Pons pick six type of fast start. If so, I might drive to Green Bay and start punching people in the head again, like I did last night. But they have to get off to a fast start, and that doesn't mean 14-0, 21-0, but they've got to stay within striking zone, because we have seen, and even with the game last weekend against Detroit, it was 16-0 going into the fourth quarter, and the Bears came back and tied it at 16-16 and intercepted a pass and had a chance to drive down and win, and ultimately did not happen. But we've seen Caleb Williams and the Bears come up with plays time after time to give themselves a chance to win. So they can't get in a hole behind Green Bay. Green Bay had a de facto bye week last week. They rested everybody, so they're going to be as healthy as they can possibly be, taking out Micah Parsons and guys on the injured reserve. And the Bears are right there as well. They should be getting Rome Odunze back today, their number one wide receiver. They should be getting Kyler Gordon back, their nickel back, their starting cornerback there, which is important against Green Bay's speed with Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson and those guys that Jordan Love can get the ball to. So, as important as that game for Indiana was to me and my fandom and just being an alum of the school, this one means a little bit more because, I live up in Packerland, and it's bragging rights until next September. And I really need this more than I need any sort of Indiana win in basketball today or Indiana win next Monday. I need this more than any of you guys could ever know.
I apologize because I'm going to hit the rewind button real quick, just because this is this is one of those Michael Jordan-esque stats. Last night was Fernando Mendoza's 5th game this year. 5th game this year with more touchdowns than incompletions. No other quarterback in college football has done that more than twice this century. He's done it 5 times this year now. And
I mean,
add this to the pot for him. Mendoza grew up a mile from Miami's campus. He won a state championship at Miami's Columbus High, the alma mater of Mario Cristobal. Mendoza's dad and Cristobal were high school teammates in the late 80s. Mendoza's mom played college tennis at Miami. Mendoza dreamed of being Miami's quarterback, but at the time it was Manny Diaz, was hesitant to even offer a walk-on spot to Mendoza. So you don't think he's got a little extra sauce for this game, do you?
Yeah, and D'Angelo Pons is from Miami. Fernando talks about throwing an interception to him in high school. So, it's kind of coming full circle. And, there's not a better representative of Indiana University than Fernando Mendoza. He's going to go down as an IU legend. But there aren't many of those, certainly not in football. But where do you put Fernando Mendoza on that list, Jason?
As far as IU legends go?
I mean, that guy will never pay for a drink in Indiana again. I mean, it's just what he's done in the 1 year he's been there and how he's conducted himself. I mean, you can't be prouder that he's the starting quarterback for Indiana, because then you can go look at Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt and just be embarrassed by his actions. That's not an issue with Fernando.
No, he's already cemented himself top 5 legend of all time, and it will just be a matter of what he does going forward, because you've got to throw, like, Isaiah came in, won a national championship, but then went on to be an NBA champion a couple of times, was multiple-time NBA All-Star. So, that's got to push him towards the front of the list. Kent Benson was a national champion and then was the number 1 pick in the draft, and had a decent career, I think, in the NBA. I'm not sure how good he ever was, but, I mean, he was the number 1 pick in the draft. So you got to throw him out there. I think, even though it's been ages ago, I still think that you have to say Mark Spitz is the biggest legend ever, right? Because not only a success at IU, but then because of his success in the Olympics. I mean, I would think that would have to be who tops the list.
Steve Alford.
Yeah.
No?
If we're talking just IU, absolutely. Because the crazy thing is, even though he doesn't even have the scoring record at IU, he's still the most popular, most well-known, most beloved basketball alum ever. And it's funny because somebody actually asked me that the other day. Why do you think it is, as much as people love him, why he never, in all the time since Knight got fired, why was Alford never the guy that got the call? And I've never heard this from anybody on the inside or anything, but I think you can make an educated guess that he is so beloved. Like, he is quite literally, and I don't mean this as a knock, I mean it as the literal truth. He is so much the golden boy. I think IU was afraid of tarnishing that legacy just because of how much he means to so much of the fan base and stuff. I almost wonder if it was they were afraid to tarnish that legacy in some way if he didn't come in and win big and win right away.
Yeah, I mean, you can't fire. You can, but it's hard to fire a legend, right? And
yeah, because in that same argument, I said, they said, well, what about Mike Woodson? I said, Mike Woodson was a former player. He was not a legend. He was a good player at IU, but he wasn't beloved like Steve Alford. I mean, Steve Alford literally walked on water in the eyes of IU fans. He was Indiana homegrown, good-looking guy, had the hair, all the stuff, beautiful jump shot, over 90% from the free throw line, all of those things as a homegrown talent. and he was the golden boy. So where would you say that Mendoza ranks? Because like I said, he's definitely top 5, and I might be ready to already put him in the top 2 with Spitz. And if he would go on, win a national title, and then because he's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. If he's not, then what are we doing? So you're going to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. Is it going to be dependent on what he does in the NFL?
You know, and I think it all just boils down to
sorry, you cut out. Yeah, you cut out a little bit.
We're about ready to pull up to the airport, so I'll leave with this. If Mendoza wins next Monday, not this coming Monday, but next.
I'm sorry, sir. Could you correct your statement?
When Mendoza wins, I think he will be in that 1 or 2 area. I mean, I don't think as far. I mean, yes, Spitz with the Olympic career that he had and all the gold medals, but man, if you're talking just the big sports, like it's Alford and it's Mendoza, and a lot of that is how Mendoza carries himself.
Yeah.
A lot of that is how he represents Indiana. He's everything that you want your school to be represented by, and when they win next Monday, living legend, man. He's one of one, or at least 1A to one Steve Alford's 1B. So I'm gonna jump off here. Go Hoosiers. Bears get the win tonight, 24-20.
Oh.
Caleb Williams goes for 240 and 2 touchdowns. And, Jordan Love throws a big pick as they're driving in the fourth quarter to win it, to seal it for the Bears. So
I like
Bears.
it.
I will talk to you guys. I'll maybe jump on next week from Mexico. It's going to be slightly warmer than it is in Wisconsin, so we're looking forward to that. But
all right, well, good luck tonight, and safe travels on your way home, and then safe travels to Cancun.
Or Delta.
Thank you, my friend. See you guys.
All right, we'll see you.
See you.
Well, we spent all this time talking about IU, and deservedly so, because they obviously deserve it. And we just brought up the Bears game tonight. This might be the least interesting playoff field in the NFL in quite some time. Mm-hmm. And I think and you would think we would be educated on it because 2 of the teams are from the Colts division. But how interested are people nationally in the Jaguars or the Texans? Not many. Like, tonight's going to get a lot of eyeballs because you've got the 2 classic names. You got the Bears, you got the Packers. Mm-hmm. That's going to draw eyes. That's going to get a lot of people. I think people better wake up pretty quickly on the Jaguars, though. If Trevor Lawrence continues to play the way he is, they're here to stay because he's finally reaching that potential that everybody's – because, shoot, he got drafted. Is this his 7th year already?
I think it's his 6th.
His 6th year already. And, he had shown maybe a flash or 2 here and there, but he couldn't consistently produce. But, man, over the last about 10 weeks, he's been the best quarterback in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And that can be a scary proposition. You get a guy on a roll like that and things just start to click. And, some of it might be the coach, the new coach down there and things, but it just in general – and like the Broncos, I know I'm supposed to care about the Broncos, but I don't think Bo Nix is good. I just don't. I think Sean Payton does a great job, but they're not real flashy this year. People need to pay attention to them, but they don't excite you. Like the Seahawks are really stinking good this year, but there's no Russell Wilson. There's no Sherman.
Richard
Sherman. You know, there's none of those personalities.
Mm-hmm.
There's no beast mode. You know, there's just And then without Mahomes being in and the Chiefs, you've got no Mahomes. Really, the only real interesting story right now, I guess, would be you'd have to say the Bills, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Because Josh Allen finally doesn't have Patrick Mahomes in his way. He doesn't have Lamar Jackson in his way. He doesn't have Joe Burrow in his way. If they don't win this year, I think you got to burn that thing to the ground and start over. And I don't mean like getting rid of Josh Allen, anything like that, but like you got to clean house in the front office and the coaching. Just my opinion, but I mean, if you can't do it now, when are you ever going to do it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. You know, Josh had that hot take that, you know, the Chiefs would miss the playoffs, and I think it's starting to set in that maybe the Chiefs missing the playoffs isn't always great because now you don't have that star power. You don't have Joe Burrow. You don't have Patrick Mahomes. Sure, you have, you know, your lovable guys. You have Josh Allen. You have Brock Purdy, C.J. Stroud. You know, you have these guys, but you don't have star power, and that's starting to set in. And it's going to be interesting to see the numbers. Don't get me wrong. I think they're going to set records this year. They have all year. But it's going to be interesting without the star power of how great these playoffs are. And like to your point, if the Bills can't get it done, and if they lose tomorrow, or if they lose in Denver, if they lose in New England, or if they reach a Super Bowl and the Buffalo curse continues to live on, what is it going to take? Because if you can't win it this year, when are you ever going to get it done? And it's going to be interesting to see. I know who I think is going to win the Super Bowl, but it'll be interesting to hear. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl this year?
Man, I can see it being the Bills and the 49ers in the Super Bowl. It's funny because the Eagles just keep winning, but literally every week, even after wins, all you hear about is the turmoil that's going on. Yep. You don't know if that's actual noise or if that's like fake narrative noise just to keep people talking. You don't know because it hasn't really jumped up and bit them. I mean, they go 11-6. That's not terrible. So I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being the Bills and the Niners. I think that'd be a fun one to watch. But like today, the 8 and 9 Panthers are hosting a playoff game.
Yeah.
I mean, whose skirt is that blowing up? The Panthers versus the Rams. Whoop-de-doo. Packers-Bears is a good one. That'll be an exciting one. Bills and Jaguars. That, from just a strictly football game standpoint, that's a heck of a game. But the eyes that are going to be turning that are going to be 80 to 90% drawn because the Bills are in the game. Niners-Eagles is a good one. And again, Chargers-Patriots. From a football standpoint, that's a good one. But
why is that the Sunday Night Football game, too?
I mean, Tom Brady ain't coming through the door. Gronk ain't coming through the door. Randy Moss and Bill Belichick aren't walking through the door. Jim Harbaugh is, and that's about it. Like, I don't know. And then Texans and Steelers. I think the only thing that makes that interesting is, are you watching Aaron Rodgers' last game? So I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too tough on the playoffs this year, but I don't know. I've just, there's not a lot of matchups that really excite me.
And I think it's one of those things. It's like March Madness. You have to wait a couple weeks to see those big matchups, and that's what sucks. Is, you know, let's say the Bills win. You know, they're going to go to Denver. That'll be an interesting game, but it's like you said, Denver doesn't scare me. The 8-9 Colts in week 2 beat the Broncos on a game-winning field goal.
And the 8-9 Colts were right there against the Seahawks
with Phillip Rivers. They lost by 21, but I mean, if you watch that game outside of, the pick six at the end of the game, they had every chance to beat the 49ers.
Yeah.
And they had every chance to beat Jacksonville. They had every chance to beat Houston. They faced numerous teams where they could have beaten them. But none of these teams really scare me. There's 2 teams who I think can make those runs. It's Seattle, because they're going to be playing at home every week, and it's Buffalo. I think Buffalo on the road, Jacksonville, Denver, and probably New England. That it's a tough road to get to the Super Bowl, but if anybody can do it, it's Josh Allen. But I'll say I think Buffalo wins the Super Bowl, but if they don't, I think it's time to move on from Sean McDermott. It's time, and they have a good core. James Cook, Josh Allen, they have good receivers. Defense is a little scary on the standpoint of they can't really stop anything most of the time. But they do have a top 5 quarterback in the league. Who's to say they can't win this year? But it's gonna. It's one of the things I've heard. Let's say the Bills win and Josh Allen wins Super Bowl MVP. Are people going to say he didn't actually do anything since he didn't beat Mahomes, since he didn't beat Burrow, since he didn't beat Lamar? Are they going to say because he ran the table and won a Super Bowl and maybe an MVP in the Super Bowl without all of them, are they going to say it was a fluke?
Well, who will? ESPN's going to say that. Just because, Stephen A. Smith and guys like that can't help themselves. They've got to get the clicks. They've got to get people to jump on. It's not Josh Allen's fault those teams didn't make it. You can only play the people in front of you.
Yep.
And if they're able to go, because I don't care who is in front of you. Like we joke about the Panthers hosting a playoff game. They're still an NFL team. I don't care who you play. It's not going to be easy. So if you're able to take care of business with who is in front of you, I don't think you should ever be questioned if you are the last team standing, whether it be a Super Bowl, a World Series, a national championship, whatever it might be. There should never be a question about, well, who was it that they actually played? We played the teams that were put in front of us. We didn't back away from anybody. And it's kind of that same idea. Let's use IU for an example. Last year, people upset that they got in even though they only had one loss. Well, who did they play? The one team that they played that was any good beat them last year in the regular season. But on the surface, you look at the schedule in the preseason, and we've said it before. You had Michigan, the defending national champion. You had Washington, the defending national runner-up. And what do? Beat them both. You can only do so much. And, in college, you schedule your own to a point, not in conference play necessarily. But in the NFL, you have no control. The NFL schedule is controlled by the league. You have to play who's in front of you. And then the playoff schedule is obviously controlled by your record. You can't say it's the league necessarily, but your record deems who you will play. And so all you can do is go out and, I don't care who's in front. Josh Allen is going to have to be Superman at some point, as he's shown a capability of doing. But he's going to have that moment, or maybe a few times have those moments in the playoffs to get them to that point, because you can look down through the history of the Super Bowl, whether it's a quarterback or a running back, somebody has those Superman moments that you've seen throughout the year to will their team to Super Bowl victories.
Yeah, definitely. And moving on from football, anything, I think the biggest thing that happened all week, Trae Young is officially a Washington Wizard.
And they traded him for a pack of gum and a bottle of Gatorade, I think.
Exactly. And the Wizards, the report is that Young's not even going to play this year. And they traded them I think Atlanta just traded him to get him off the team.
What's wrong with him?
I have no idea. No idea. And
I didn't realize he wasn't even playing now.
And then I know Anthony Davis, the Mavericks were looking on trying to get Anthony Davis out of Dallas, but it looks like he's again about to be on, IR. So
no, you don't
so you
say.
can't really do anything there. But one thing we can give congrats to Rick Carlisle, reached 1,000 career wins the other day. He sat on 999 since December, what was it, the 13th, I do believe. And the Pacers finally got their 7th win of the season over the Charlotte Hornets a couple nights ago. Pascal Siakam hit a game-winning layup to, I think, about 114-112 win. And they officially got Rick Carlisle into the 1,000 career wins as a head coach. And the Pacers keep on moving to hopefully, because, the draft lottery will not be nice to them, hopefully they can get the number 1 overall pick.
I'm glad you said that, because I was just about to ask, because they are on the fast train to the number 1 pick, the way it is. So right now in college basketball, well, I guess first of all, what type of player, if the Pacers get the first pick, what position, what role, what type of guy are we looking for, and then who are the 3 to 5 dudes who are being talked about as being possible number 1 pick?
Your type of player would probably be a mix of Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton. You would need somebody who's going to be a shooting guard or, a small forward. The overall number 1 consensus that I've heard for the number 1 pick would be Darren Peterson out of Kansas. But in the last couple games and weeks, it has seemed that he has taken a backseat role. He has been sitting on the sideline a lot they said he's getting cramps, which, you play 35 minutes, I can understand. I played basketball. You get cramps. It's what happens. But it almost reminds you of when Anthony Richardson tapped out. You know what I mean? So outside of that, you have AJ DeBonsta from BYU.
I know the name, but I haven't paid attention at all to how he's done this year.
He is a freak athlete. And he honestly, he reminds me of Giannis. A smaller Giannis.
Yo.
He is just an unbelievable player. This year, he is averaging 23 points a game, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. He's shooting 58% from the field.
Good Lord. What's their record?
BYU is 14-1. They're the number 9 team in the country.
Okay. And that, a big chunk of that is because of him.
Yes. And then would it be Boozer? It'd be Cameron Boozer from Duke, who this year is averaging 23.3 points a game, pretty much 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and is shooting 58% from the field.
But he's going to be, I shouldn't say this because I haven't watched him play, but is he an outside threat at all, or is he more like he's scoring from the perimeter? It's because he's driving and getting to the rim, and does he play a little back to the basket even, or does he shoot it from the outside?
Just looking from his each game, he does shoot the 3. Against Florida, he shot 9 threes.
Oh, okay. So what's his percentage on the season?
Let's see.
Because you want a guy to be shooting at least a minimum of 33. Anything above 33 is good. You start to get to 38, 39 range, now you're looking at really, really good. On
the year, he is averaging 37.3 from 3.
That's not bad at all. Well, okay, so he's another one in. I mean, this is I've heard the names of all of those guys. I won't lie, I haven't sat down and watched a game with any of them in it. I mean, on paper, you almost have to go with DeBonsta, don't you? Just because he's a physical freak, and because what is he, like 6'10", 6'11" with guard skill?
Yes. He I think he's a smaller Giannis. And I think when he gets to the NBA, he's going to bulk up even more. And I think if they got him, he is going to be what we wanted Miles Turner to be. He's going to be a inside-outside threat who is not just going to get you 4 rebounds a game and lead the league in blocks. He's going to be everywhere. And, that's why I've seen, Darren Peterson is a comp of Tyrese Halliburton. He can pass the ball. He can shoot the ball just like him. But, and this is why I hate the NBA draft. You could be the worst team in the league. Not just because you tank. You might just have a bottom roster, like the Jazz did last year. It doesn't mean you're getting the first overall pick. So, I mean, Cooper Flagg went to the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I think we can all gather on how that actually happened. But Pacers could end up getting the seventh overall pick. And it just, But, we can only hope. But I would assume even if they got the 7th or the 8th, or maybe even the 5th overall, they're going to get a dude who can play. And a healthy Tyrese Halliburton is going to take this team back to a 45 to 55 win team. And I saw a tweet that somebody made after Tyrese went down that said, people don't realize the Pacers without Tyrese Halliburton are going to look like the school of the blind. They really are. They're 7-31. They are the worst team in the NBA.
And you can put a lot of that at the feet of Halliburton being injured, but when's the no, I don't even think opening night they had everybody on their roster outside of Halliburton healthy, did they?
I don't think so.
There have been freak injury after freak injury after freak injury this year. And so, because I still think that is an incredibly solid roster even without Halliburton.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't lose an Olympic gold medalist, all-star, first team All-NBA point guard and think that you're just going to keep right on rolling along either. Well, I don't know if you want to finish solo the last 20 minutes or if you want to just call her quits, but I got walked through at 11 and I haven't been at practice for the last couple of days, so I need to get to the gym. So
I have work tonight, so I'm hitting the hay when
I get home. So. Well, we hope you enjoyed this the hour-long IU Love Fest, but very well deserved. It's not like we're talking up a bunch of bums. The best team in college football right now, your Indiana Hoosiers. Beyond the Game brought to you by Batesville Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Gillenhow Funeral Home, Acura Automotive, Decatur County Recycling, Walters Tire, Hamilton Tebby Law Office, and Buy Right Auto. For Ryan Higginbotham and Josh Lee, this is Jason Simpson. We'll see y'all next week.